One of the scariest things about writing, I think, is when you just have open space. There's no place to start. And you don't know, and you're sitting there and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. So one of the things I try to tell kids when they're writing is give yourself a starting spot. You can always change later, but start here and say, what if? Ask yourself a question, and that gives you a place to begin. Sort of like the Wizard of Oz. That path starts in the circle right there in the land of Oz. Dorothy has to start somewhere, and so that helps with it. So, for instance, the first novel I wrote was The Secrets of the Cicada Summer, and it's actually very autobiographical. I like to tell kids that what happens in that story, everything is true except what happened. And so by that I mean the plot is not something that happened to me. I didn't have a brother named Pete, and so this book is very lyrical, it's mysterious, and it's also very emotional. But when I wrote The Secrets of the Cicada Summer, it was a cicada summer where the cicadas come out, and they don't always come out everywhere, but places where there's a lot of humidity, and it's just this deafening, wonderful, wonderful sound. And when I was a kid, I think I was about 12 or 13, and we had one of those. And there were always cicadas in my hometown where I was raised. And I always loved them because I was always out exploring nature and finding their carapace from the bugs. And I was going somewhere and I thought, oh, cicada summer. And that phrase I just loved. It's a cicada summer. But I didn't, I just parked it and put it away. And then a few months later, I just was sitting around one day and I got this visual of a girl sitting under a tree, one girl's under the tree reading, and another girl up in the branches sort of hiding, who sort of kind of startles the girl who's reading. And the girl underneath the tree is just shocked, and she doesn't know what to do. And I'm like, I don't know who these kids are. What's this? And I just sort of parked it. And then over the next coming months, I started getting these scenes, these almost flashes of photographs or small videos of these characters interacting, these same two girls and other people coming and going. And it was like there was a movie in my head, and I was only getting to see little snippets of them, but they were completely out of order. So I said there was a very strong emotional connection to these, and I started writing them down. So I took these big 5x7 cards, and I would just write like, what is this thing going on? And I would just write it, and I put them in a box, but they were out of sequence. So ultimately, I ended up with this box of cards, and I sat down one day and said, I don't exactly know what this is, but I wonder if there's a narrative there, and there was. So I took them out and I laid them on the floor and rearranged them and said, oh, this is a story of a girl named Lily, and she doesn't talk for some reason, and there's something that's happened to someone, and who is this other girl? And then I started exploring and filled in the gaps. So in that one, the process was it just sounds goofy to say it, but it was sort of out of my hands. It was like I had this entire book in my brain, and it was just sort of jumping out as best it could. It was very spooky. It was spooky.